sometimes a car flies so beneath the radar that it's only really registered by real connoisseurs who know what to look for. And what they appreciated 70 odd years ago is pretty much as it is with collectors today. They obviously love real style and elegance. They appreciate quality of craftsmanship. They recognize technical innovations when they see them. And of course, they really value rarity of production. And all of those qualities are what this car that we have here to play with today possesses in spades. And yet I'm a little embarrassed to admit that until researching for this film, I knew very little about it. This is the 1951 Lancia Aurelia B20 Coupés. Launched in 1951 at the Turin Motor Show, the B20 arrived just a year after its four-door sibling, the B10. This elegant creation was the work of Vittorio Jano, and with its shortened wheelbase, 50-50 weight distribution and 2-litre alloy V6 engine, it was a revelation. It positively bristled with innovation. It had independent suspension. The transmission was via a transaxle at the rear, onto which was bolted inboard brakes. We had radial tyres and a clever 2+2 seating arrangement. This svelte body with its clean architectural lines was styled by Ghia but built by Pininfarina, and it immediately appealed to a sophisticated elite who could afford the 2.5 million lira price tag. It all combined to offer sports car performance in a luxurious package that was as comfortable on the circuit as it was on the road, and it heralded the dawn of a critically important new era, that of the grand touring car. A car which could win a hill climb by day and gracefully pull up at the Opera House by night. The marketing slogan used at the time was absolutely bang on. Here was a sports car in tails. Although strictly speaking not a homologation special, here's a car that in relatively standard road form finished second in the 1951 Mille Miglia before going on to win the Targa Florio, to win the Monte Carlo Rally, and to win its class at Le Mans en route to finishing an extraordinary 6th overall. All of which, in my opinion, more than justifies its place in our series. And with 118 or so brake horsepower and a little over 1,000 kilograms of weight, it was good for about 100 miles an hour, which, considering it has all the practicalities of a saloon car, is not too bad for the early 1950s. Now this is a 4th series car out of the total 6 series that they produced over the 8 years of production. And in the 4th series they introduced a Didion rear end to complement the independent front suspension, and it's supposed to improve the road holding, particularly at the rear. I have to say, I still feel all the roll and lollop in the middle of these corners, but that is partly nothing to do with the car, the chassis or the suspension. It's these bizarre cloth covered seats for a car that cost 2.5 million lira in period, which was more than the Bentley at the time. A lot of customers were somewhat dismayed to find their seats covered in cloth rather than leather. But as attractive as the Xenia fabric is, it offers absolutely no lateral support whatsoever. And I really find myself rolling from left to right, as well as bouncing up and down like a yo-yo just on the springs inside these slightly over-bolstered seats. That 2-litre alloy V6 up ahead has got a lovely raspiness to it. And remember, this was the first time a V6 had been put into a production car. Another first for the Aurelia B20. And whilst I really appreciate its torque, because the gaps between the gear ratios are so vast that when I'm braking and slowing down for a corner, first gear is just far too short. I have to roll into the tighter turns with very low revs in second and just trust that the car will use its torque to pull out comfortably, which it does do. But as you're accelerating up through the box, there's this bizarre drop in revs, about 1500 or so RPM, as you slink up from second into third. And I would say third to fourth, but fourth gear is so tall that honestly, I've not even used it. I'm quite enjoying cruising around in this today, but I have to say the idea of driving it hard, flat out, in long endurance races and rallies like the Targa Florio or the Mille Miglia is somewhat terrifying. There's an awful lot of work just at these speeds, and I'm getting very hot. Now the gearbox itself is quite nice. It's a straightforward 4-speed box, and the distance across the gate is quite narrow despite this very long lever jolting up toward me out of the floor. But the pedal layout is not that great. There's huge gaps between the pedals, which makes it extremely hard to heel and toe, and I'm dialing into it now, but having to completely change my technique. Instead, doing heel and toe is exactly as it says on the tin, which putting my heel on the brake pedal, giving me next to no feel whatsoever, and rocking the top part of my foot, my toes, across to the right-hand side, desperately trying to reach across to the throttle pedal for a little blip on the downshift. Now, if that sounds like too much work and making a mountain out of a molehill, you might be right, but with this long gap between the gear ratios, when you engage that lower gear, the engine revs rocket. So you really do need to match the wheel speed first with a nice clean, well-timed blip on the throttle. There were only about 3,850 of these cars built in period over its 8-year production run. Lancia in particular had a habit of scrapping its racing cars at the end of their racing life. So there's not that many left today, which is another reason why they're so coveted by collectors. This car really is a landmark of mid-century Italian automotive design that really encapsulates the spirit of Lancia as they were at the cutting edge of technology. I absolutely love the minimalism of its understated exterior and how that contrasts with the wrath of technological advances that lurk beneath. These cars were owned in period by no less than Fangio, Louis Chiron, Giovanni Bracco, Goodwood's very own Lord March, even Riccardo Patresi's grandfather had one. And having now spent a day in it, it's no wonder to me that this was the racing driver's daily driver.